Please welcome Scott and Sangeeta. Sorry about that.
Hello, everyone. It's fantastic to be here at Authenticate. Welcome to everyone here. It's such a privilege to be part of the energy and the momentum that we're seeing here. The work we are doing together transcends organizational and industry boundaries and has enormous generational impact. So thank you for working together to progress authentication and to protect this world. I'm Sangeeta Ranjit. I'm a product leader in the security and identity division at Microsoft, leading modern authentication like Passkeys for both consumers and businesses. I've been part of Microsoft's passwordless journey for over a decade now, starting with Windows Hello Face authentication way back in 2015. And I've been involved in the FIDO Alliance for many years now. It's just been amazing to see our passwordless vision come to life. And joining me here today is Scott Bingham, who I have the pleasure of working together closely with every day.
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Bingham. I am a product manager at Microsoft, helping drive modern authentication, which includes accelerating the adoption of passkeys and helping the world get rid of passwords. And I've been in this space for a few years now, and it's been absolutely amazing to see the progress that we've made. And currently, I am leading the consumer passkey adoption at Microsoft, and really looking forward to sharing some of the things that we've learned. But before I do that, I want to introduce you to one more very important member of our team. This is Doreen. She is my grandma. She's 91 years old and one of the very best humans on the planet. She's amazingly smart and has watched technology evolve over the last 90 years. From typewriters to AI, from switchboards to cell phones, she's used it all, which has given her an amazing perspective on when technology can meaningfully improve your life and when it kind of just gets in the way. And Doreen knows that I work for Microsoft, so I think she believes that I personally invented Word and Windows, and that I am solely responsible for any product-related decisions. She's very proud. But this also means that whenever anything tech-related doesn't behave exactly as expected, or if she has suggestions on how things might work better, I usually hear about it. Well, a couple of years ago, Doreen was having trouble getting signed into one of her accounts. Her password wasn't working, and she had tried everything that she knew how to do, and after repeated failures was still not able to access her account. Eventually, she called me pretty upset and said, "I'm having a lot of trouble getting into my account. My password's not working." And I say, "Well, are you sure you're using the right password?" She says, "Well, I think so. I got it written down in my little book." And so I say, "Okay." She doesn't live very far away, so I run over there and see if I can help her out. And she hands me her little book, and I look at her password, and it's total gibberish. It looks a little something like this. And I'm a trusted relative, so with her permission, I look at some of the other entries in her book, and they're all similarly psychotic, just absolute keyboard smashing. And I'm shocked and a little impressed, and I say, "Grandma, I am all in support of good password hygiene, but this is a lot. This has got to be so frustrating for you to enter this manually every single time." And she goes, "It gets worse. They're in code." What? Turns out, Doreen was self-encrypting her passwords. She was terrified that if anybody ever found her little password book, they would have complete access to her digital life. And so anytime she created a new password, she would alter the character slightly before writing it down. So in the event that someone found her password book, they wouldn't actually have her passwords. And in our line of work, we see people do a lot of creative things with passwords, but this was a first for me. And I know it's an extreme example, but I kind of see where she's coming from. It is a crazy, scary world out there.
Let's take a look at some of the numbers from our digital defense report, which will be available tomorrow. In the last year alone, we saw password attacks almost double at Microsoft, over 7,000 per second. This includes a 58% increase in phishing attempts. By the year 2027, global cost of cybercrime is expected to get to nearly $24 trillion. Now, there's a lot that goes into security and the associated financial model. But no matter how you look at it, that's a lot of fish. Thankfully, we have a great solution for the usability and security issues that plague authentication today, right? Passkeys. Passkeys are an amazing advancement in authentication, offering step-level improvements to usability and security and reduction in support costs. We love passkeys, and we believe these are fundamental to a secure future for our consumers and our businesses. Earlier this year, in May, we announced passkey support for our consumer apps and services. You can now sign into your favorite consumer app, whether that's Xbox or Copilot or Office, using a passkey. We are very proud to bring this option to our users and have been really encouraged by the results and the response that we've seen by our users. And today we'll share some of the learnings from our launch. But when we started this journey, we asked ourselves, how do we convince our billion-plus users, we have that many consumer users in our ecosystem, to love passkeys as much as we do? It was actually a lot to consider. For example, the sheer variety of users and the devices that we were dealing with was mind-boggling. We have users from all ages, demographics, locations, languages, using all kinds of devices. We have users who are very tech-savvy and users who are not. Somehow, we had to convince a very large and diverse set of population to change their behaviors permanently and be really happy about it.
This was a big task, and there was a lot that we did not know going into this. We had this unique opportunity to fantastically improve the way that people interacted and signed in, and we wanted to make sure that we got it right. So our approach was pretty simple. Start small, experiment and learn, and then scale like crazy. The first thing that we did was build technical support for our various apps. And when we announced consumer passkey support earlier this year, we didn't immediately have any type of enrollment or nudge campaigns to encourage adoption. Just a very simple option in the account settings page and an option on the sign-in page to sign in with your passkey. And we were surprised, we were shocked at the response that we saw. Thousands and thousands of people enrolled passkeys and used them to sign in every single day. And we got a lot of feedback from this early adopter group that helped frame some of our research moving forward. But we had greater ambitions than this. We didn't want passkeys to be just another option for you to sign in. We wanted it to be the option. To do that, we knew that we had to build a premium enrollment and sign-in UX. We wanted their interactions with passkeys to be positive from the very beginning. So we ran a lot of user studies, A/B testing, qualitative studies, in-depth interviews to learn about behaviors and preferences. And one of the first things that we wanted to know was when and where we should approach users to enroll a passkey. Logically, we wanted users to enroll a passkey when they created an account. But what about our existing user base? Do we nudge them after they sign in? Do we nudge them during a password reset or an account recovery flow when they're already super frustrated with passwords? Or do we take a more passive wait-and-see approach and only have something on the account settings page? We were very worried about bothering our users and interrupting their normal workflow. We were thrilled to discover that people responded very positively to the invitation to enroll a passkey. There wasn't a bad place. What we did learn is that we need to be active in our invitations. Almost all of our growth comes from proactive nudges. It's important to have the option to add a passkey wherever a user manages their credentials, but that wait-and-see kind of passive approach was never going to yield the adoption that we were looking for. So in addition to knowing when and where to enroll a passkey, we wanted to know how. And to do that, we needed to understand what would motivate our users to change decades-old behavior. So this is our little interrupt, or our nudge screen. And again, we ran a lot of studies here. We went over every single pixel. And we could spend a whole separate session on this, but I want to focus on just two of our key learnings. First, we wanted to know what user value proposition would resonate most strongly with users. There are a lot of good reasons to enroll a passkey, but what would stop somebody in their tracks to stop and enroll a passkey? What do our users really care about? Ease of use, security, a faster sign-in. Our user studies indicated that ease of use didn't really resonate with our users, which was surprising, because we tightly associated ease of use with speed. Perhaps not as surprising, though, was that both speed and security both resonated with users as a value prop that would convince them to enroll a passkey. So as the next step, we took these two treatments, security and speed, and A/B tested them. And the results closely matched our qualitative studies. In both treatments, about 1 in 4 people who saw this nudge click through. And the results were close enough that we began a second series of testing to determine if this distribution remains constant across the different ingress points. Our hypothesis is that we may begin to see greater variation based on where the user sees the nudge. For example, if a user going through a password reset flow it might be more interested in seeing messaging about security, while a user who just went through the long process of MFA with a one-time code might be more interested in about speed. We're still in the middle of those tests, so stay tuned. And as always, we encourage you to run your own tests. Your users and product are different than ours, but if you're looking for a starting point, speed and security are probably safe bets. Additionally, there's been fantastic research done by the FIDO Alliance and published UX guidelines, and we encourage you to reference those as you build out your own experiences. We were also pragmatic that not every user will be ready to enroll a passkey on that first invitation. And usually these types of upsell or nudge screens are framed as a positive or a negative outcome. But we wanted to switch that mindset for our users. If they see this nudge, click next, enroll a passkey, that's great. But if they see this and decide that now isn't quite the right time for them, we wanted to take that moment and frame it positively. And so we explored a few variations on button copy and found that skip for now was the strongest option. This lets them continue with what they're doing, but it sets the expectation that we're going to ask again. We're taking a bold stance here, and we're being polite about it, but we're working to get users very comfortable with the idea of passkeys being the new normal, that passkeys will be the expectation for signing in the future. We have implemented progressive back-off logic so as not to overwhelm our users who decide not to enroll passkey immediately, but we don't let users permanently opt out of a nudge or an invitation to enroll a passkey from a nudge screen. Overall, we're thrilled with the results of our experimentation. About 1 in 4 people who we show a nudge through click through. That's 5 times our pre-launch expectations. So we had this solid understanding of the messaging and the timing to enroll passkeys, but that's not quite enough. A passkey by itself doesn't do the user a whole lot of good if it isn't used. So we needed to fundamentally change the way that users interacted with our sign-in screen. To do this, we came up with a few guiding principles. First, a great sign-in experience should prioritize security. Great security and great usability do not need to be incongruous. Next, a great sign-in experience should have low cognitive load. People don't want to think about signing in. They don't want to stare at a list of different options that they can use. They just want in, and we should make that easy for them. Finally, a great sign-in UX should not only prioritize the best available credential, but continuously move users to better credentials. So with these principles in mind, we came up with a completely reimagined sign-in experience. And in essence, what we're doing is we're looking for the very best available credential for that user on that device, and we automatically prioritize it. So in this example, a user enters in their username, and a little bit of logic runs in the background to determine what credentials they have available to them. In this case, it's a passkey, so we don't need to do a whole lot. The platform authenticator will immediately be invoked, and the user is quickly signed in. Notice that we do not present a list of all the ways that they can sign in. We look for the best and make it automatic. But let's take an example where the user doesn't have a passkey yet. They enter in their identifier, we run a little bit of logic, and we determine that of all the available credentials on their account, email sign-in for right now is the very best way for them to sign in. So they authenticate, and we immediately nudge them to enroll that passkey. So the very next time that they sign in again, the passkey is the best available credential. And it's automatically set as the default.
So this has been an amazing journey of experimenting, learning, and evolving. And the results have been actually really fascinating. 99% of our users who start the passkey enrollment or registration process completed. They say the experience is simple, fast, and familiar. This data, combined with the enrollment nudge success rate that Scott talked about just now, has significantly helped grow the adoption of passkeys for our consumer users. Next, we see a 98% successful sign-in rate when users sign into our apps and services with a sync passkey. Passkeys have 3 times higher sign-in success rate than passwords. Third, we are also seeing huge gains in how fast users access their accounts. A typical password-only sign-in takes approximately 24 seconds to complete. When you add a traditional MFA factor like email or SMS one-time code or authenticator apps, it takes approximately 69 seconds to complete sign-in. With passkeys, users get significantly faster sign-in speed, only 8 seconds. For users, that means they get to their content quickly without the frustration of forgotten passwords, waiting for codes, or even calling help desk. So with data to back our experiences, we are ready to start setting defaults and start launching passkeys at a global scale. We have started rolling out default behaviors for our consumer user base. New users are now invited to enroll passkeys when they create an account. Existing users are invited to enroll passkeys or nudge to enroll passkeys at key pivot points like after they sign in or during a password reset process. All users who have enrolled passkeys just become the default authentication method for them. So with these product changes and based on the current run rate that we are seeing, we are forecasting that hundreds of millions of users will enroll and use passkeys in the next 12 months. But all of this really is only a step in our broader authentication vision. Even if we get 1 billion users to enroll and use passkeys, if a user has both a passkey and a password and both grant access to the account, really the account is still vulnerable to phishing. To truly protect these accounts, we've got to get rid of passwords. This is a journey we've been on for a few years now. In 2022, we enabled truly passwordless accounts for our consumers, and they loved it. Millions of users have already removed passwords from their accounts. Earlier this year, we announced support for passkeys for our consumer apps and services, and are now making passkeys the default authentication method. Next, we'll stop collecting passwords for new users when they create accounts. And for existing users, we will stop supporting passwords altogether. Now, I want to take a pause here for just a second to call out that as we make progress on this journey, bad actors will adjust. As the surface area for password-based attacks shrink, they will shift focus, look at other ways to attack accounts. Account recovery and bootstrapping are then going to be the next prime targets for these attackers. It's critical that we start planning for that situation and making sure that we start hardening our account recovery and bootstrapping scenarios today. Ultimately, we want to use only phishing-resistant credentials in all these scenarios. We know we have some work to do before we get there, but we absolutely, absolutely believe in this vision. And we are getting the groundwork started to move us there as quickly as we can. So stay tuned. So back to our original question of how do we convince 1 billion users to enroll and use passkeys? Here are a few considerations. First, We learned that people love passkeys, and users are actually ready for passkeys. So don't be shy to invite them to enroll passkeys. If they don't enroll at the first ask, don't give up. Don't assume that's their final decision. If you're looking for a call to action, make sure to test a few variations. We have found that messages around sign-in speed and security resonate well with users. Second, make it as easy as possible for users to enroll and use passkeys. Don't make them choose from a list of credentials. Remember that you have a diverse user base and set defaults where possible. Third, raise the floor. We know that passkeys are an important step in the secure future. However, we do need to start planning for protecting account recovery and bootstrapping as well, and to use only phishing-resistant credentials. And finally, it's a virtuous cycle. The more relying parties support passkeys, the more users will be familiar with passkeys. The more users are familiar with passkeys, the more they will be inclined to use passkeys wherever they see, right? So then how do we convince billions and billions of users with trillions of accounts to enroll and use passkeys? We do it together, right? Folks in this room will make passkeys the new norm and bring secure, simple, and easy experiences to our users, to the world.
Now, I know you're worried about Doreen. Fortunately, her story does have a happy ending. You see, that account that she had trouble accessing all those years ago was her Microsoft account. Eventually, we decrypted her password, but I'm happy to report that today, she no longer has a password, and she is now using a passkey to sign in. It's never been easier, it's never been safer, and she couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you again for being here. We look forward to working together to accelerate the adoption of passkeys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.